Hello, my Southside family. Today we have a new segment for you called The Stage. And coming up, here's a little taste. Check my boy out, Madukwu Chinwah.
Who could have made a better pair? And I'm so glad I saw you standing there. Listen carefully.
Southside 457. Did you know that the Southside on Lamar is a National Historic Building?
This building tells a story.
I need a story to connect to with my heart.
There are so many stories in this building.
I wanted to teach other people how to naturally love themselves, and so I ventured into the field of opening my own spot.
There are people in this building with a passion to share what they know.
When I share my knowledge and my skills and my gift, I'm serving my purpose.
Preachers, teachers, architects, attorneys, engineers, artists of all kinds in this building.
What makes this place tick to me and makes it exciting is the combination of so many different kinds of people.
It's like a melting pot.
It's like a melting pot.
15 years, I've never regretted being here at Southside.
Welcome to the Southside 457 podcast. I'm your host, Walter Johnson Jr. Let's get it on. You can't miss the princess.
Listen, Linda, listen.
Southside 457.
Welcome to the Southside 457 podcast. I'm your host, Walter Johnson Jr., and today we have another special guest, and this guest is a little different. He's a good friend of mine, brother, Grammy Award winner, songwriter, producer, multi-instrumentalist, rapper, and you name it. Super musician, great artist. Welcome to the show, Madukwu DK Chinwah. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. That's me.
So, one of the questions I always ask everybody on the show is, how did you get to the Southside? What was your introduction to the Southside? Because you don't just bump into the Southside. You have to be introduced or invited or something like that. You don't just end up over here, at least not yet.
Right. So a couple of things. One is, I believe this location was repurposed when I was younger. I remember it being another building, and my oldest brother had employment in this very building. But when I became an adult, I learned of this place through various artists in town who wanted me to stay hip and up on what's going on in the city. That's how I learned about Southside.
Right on. So, you are going to perform a song for us.
Mm-hmm.
Today.
This tune is called Destiny from my album Born to Win. Hope you enjoy it. If we were meant to be, and love is on our side, then it comes as no surprise. We are destiny. Yeah. One song could not express the way that I've been blessed. I've searched, I in my quest. We are destiny. Who could have made a better pair? And I'm so glad I saw you standing there. Listen
carefully. Just listen carefully. We are destiny. One song could not express the way that I've been blessed. I've searched, I in my quest, baby. We are destiny. Who could have made a better pair? And I'm so glad I saw you standing there, listen carefully, just listen carefully. We are destiny. We are destiny. We are destiny. We are destiny. Listen carefully. Just listen carefully. We are destiny. Oh yeah.
So, tell people who is Madukwu Chinwah, and how'd you get to doing music? Like, okay, so let me explain. I've already mentioned that you're a Grammy Award winner. You've done a lot of work with a lot of artists, and we'll talk about that a little later. But how did you get to? What made you want to be a musician? How where is that in your life?
Well, the music part comes from both sides. My mother and my father were both singers, musicians, writers, so creatives. And my mother encouraged music, even us having a family group like so many people who are in church. Everybody could sing and everybody could write. I remember watching TV as a youngster and falling in love with the music that came from shows like Hee Haw. You see Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, or Roy Clark on a guitar, and it seemed like they were taking flight when they play, and then people would respond. They'd be playing so great that people would be clapping and dancing. I realized how powerful music was when you apply it the right way. Somebody's always open to it. So fast forward to leaving Las Vegas, Nevada, and coming to Texas. I was still a singer, still hadn't been exposed to instruments. And radio was doing all kinds of good things when I was young. And I still didn't know how I was going to become a musician. I was very musical. I could tell you what was going on in the songs, what I liked about the songs. A couple of voices in particular stood out. Even as a child, I remember hearing for the first time that beautiful, soothing voice of, say, Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway, and others, Karen Carpenter. These people sounded different. Then I noted that the music was even different. So I said, that's really cool, the science of coupling music with the right artist. All artists have their own thing. And I learned what those things were at an early age, long before I touched an instrument. Moved from Las Vegas to Dallas, Texas, where in the South, I don't know if people know it, but everybody down here sings and writes and plays instruments. And so I was in several circles of people who played and eventually got my hands on an instrument at age 16.
What instrument was that?
It was the guitar. There's a cool story associated with it. I think it's cool. I was leaving Bryan Adams High School, and I remember a pawn shop called Casa View Thrift. And I saw a guitar in there, electric guitar. I think they only wanted $200 for it. So I put it on layaway. I made payments. I had been advised not to buy an instrument, but something in me told me that I needed this and to connect with this instrument that I didn't know how to play. I finished making my payments, walked out the door with a brand new guitar. I hid it in a garage for a couple of weeks. And I played and practiced in the dark, not even knowing how the strings were supposed to be tuned. And after that, I came out of said garage and I played for my mother what I thought was music, something bluesy, something like that.
Yeah.
And she became emotional because she knew it was my passion, and she's been supportive ever since. That's how it got started.
But your father is a musician too.
Absolutely, a multi-instrumentalist, music educator, so teaching piano, conducting orchestras, and had a radio station, the whole nine. And while I didn't really grow up with him, I do believe I inherited his gifts as well. His name was Theo.
Isn't that interesting how just genetics or whatever it is,
Right.
Spirit, whatever it is, it just gets passed on. Like you didn't ask for it, it just came. It just
Absolutely.
I think that's amazing. So from 16 playing the guitar, then you just kept on with it. And then from there, when did you start producing music?
Almost immediately. At age 16, I started a rock band called Crystal Clear. I was living in Garland, Texas. And we played around the Deep Ellum scene and some other things. I was underage, but I would kind of put my age up so I could get experience. I think even some instances we played, we paid to play. That's how important it was to us to get the experience that some of the older guys had. There were a lot of people who were up and coming in the city, and we wanted to be a part of that. A couple of the members of my band were from Arts Magnet in Dallas. And so it was great having them watch me learn how to play my instrument, which was guitar and bass in that band. And we played the Deep Ellum Change Your Life Festival. And it included a lot of now signed artists. So we would be down there and regularly see the New Bohemians, who was led by Edie Brickell, people like that. So we just kept at it. And we were an original band. And I knew at that time that I wanted to be a music producer. So I went from a rock band to producing rap, even releasing rap records.
Rap. So you became a rapper.
I became a rapper.
So tell us about that.
Well, it was nice. Only problem is when you're a rapper, you have to eventually tell your mother, right? So I remember her being in the store, record store, and seeing the cover with my face on the front of it. And I kind of had my fingers crossed because I didn't know what her reaction was. So obviously she was surprised, but I wanted her to be proud. And she was both.
Right on. Mm-hmm. So did you go on to do more rap? Or did you... What was that?
I did continue to do rap. I like what rap brings, and I made a lot of associations with some of the still top rappers in the world. they would call me in to produce rap because I didn't need, say, records to make like samples, et cetera, et cetera. I was already good enough to play bass and guitar, drums and organs, those kinds of things. And I could sing. So just imagine I could sing on the hooks, or I could do what I needed to do. I could write verses. And like I said, some of the top rappers in the world, I've either written for them or produced for them as well. What happens after you start playing musical instruments? You want to play more of it. You want more notes, more records. And I needed to expand on what I had. So I moved to R&B and gospel.
Okay, hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go to R&B, you said you produced a lot of music and worked with a lot of rappers that a lot of people know.
Mm-hmm.
So just name them so they'll know.
I remember being at home and getting a call from the DLC. And the DLC said, "There's somebody I want you to meet at the studio." I came to the studio and it was Snoop Dogg. I was like, this is cool. He wanted me to play on this record that included other producers like Dr. Dre. I got to meet Jazzy Faye, all these people who were just names before. They're real individuals. And I was really impressed with the caliber of talent in the room. We're talking about everybody from Ren to the Dungeon Family to other regional producers like Erotic D and the now passed Uptight Chris. So I was in good company. And then later in that same genre, I was asked to write for some unreleased artists who are still in the limelight today. So they're currently doing what they're doing, I will say.
Okay. So ghostwriting.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So then you went on to do, you said R&B and gospel. So you learned to play these instruments,
Mm-hmm.
and you learned the sequence.
Yes.
And when did you know that, okay, I got this down? And when did you know, okay, I got this instrument down and it's time to do some other things and let's turn, or did you just start just building and just?
I started building immediately. A great producer, engineer by the name of Mike McLean had been my main engineer. And he was pretty good with sharing information. So I assumed that the equipment that he used was the best and that his technique was the best. So because I'm an older producer, the only studio I know is bringing in actual bass guitars, you know what I mean?
Like live instruments.
Like live instruments. It was the only thing I knew. You want a record made, you don't go through crates, you go and you play the instrument. I assumed that everybody did it that way. Little did I know it was something special. So I'm telling you, at age 20, I was already having people fly into town to have me put records together or fly me in to put records together so they could sound big and complete, you know. Always having the range to do several different genres of music. Mm-hmm.
And you do all kinds of music.
Yes.
So you was about to say before I cut you off, you were saying you started off doing, then rap led to R&B and gospel. So kind of pick it up from there.
I will. Young Kirk Franklin was 18 years old. I was 20 years old. He came to the school that I was attending, and he was making a record. I think it was a demo of some type. At this time, he was still singing the leads to his song. And I volunteered to play bass on and help him make his record into a record. That relationship continued with a group known as the DFW Mass, as Kirk Franklin is a master director. He's a choral guy. So in addition to writing songs, he can do things with a choir that nobody can. So I was in good company. He asked me to play on his first live recording at his home church in Fort Worth, Texas, which led to yet another opportunity. Now past Ricky Womack asked me to play bass on a couple of his albums from that, and opportunities just kept happening inside of the gospel realm.
So, and you didn't stop making gospel music with Kirk Franklin. You kept going. Mm-hmm. But now this leads up to the R&B, and that's when you did a whole, like you've worked on projects that have sold millions of records. Mm-hmm. And explain that transition from.
I certainly will. So this is transitional. I made a record that was self-titled called Chinwah. It was a gospel album. And believe it or not, one of my singers was Erykah Badu. And I felt good about the production. It was a little ahead of its time. It was a little edgy. Just imagine listening to your gospel and thinking that you're listening to like Guy or Intro or something like that. That's what my gospel sounded like. I was very proud of it. And shortly thereafter, Erykah Badu got her deal. And I was excited about doing this project because I knew it had some support, some legs under it. And long story short, I ended up doing 4 songs on the album. The first song, the last song, and 2 in between.
On Baduism.
On Baduism. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what was that like, recording that? And, what was that process?
It was really cool because most of the other producers from Dallas, they looked up to me. I had a couple of years on most of them, and I wanted to show them how to create a record without a sample, without a drum machine, and show them how it used to be done.
Yeah.
And that I did. So when songs like Certainly, and They Count Me Off, and I'm playing an acoustic piano, a grand piano, I had to practice at home. I hadn't been playing piano a long time. So I put in that work and it all came out well. Rim Shot was recorded and Certainly Flipped It mix, which includes my voice. I'm one of the only male vocalists on Baduism. So I'm singing on there and writing and producing on that album. And that's how most of the world saw me come into the scene or onto the scene.
I got you. So what was it like when you first heard your song, your music on the radio? Like when you first heard it on the radio and it was like, hold on a minute. That's me.
It was a really, really big deal. I don't know how relatable it was. I remember sharing that information with my friends, and I don't know how relatable it was. The album was so different, so jazzy, so hip hop, until I only had a handful of friends who could appreciate it.
Yeah.
Initially, obviously, people caught on to it, and
millions.
yes. But initially, I didn't know who to tell about that type of record. And at that time, it really didn't have a name. I wasn't considered a jazz musician. I could just play jazzy. I could compose the stuff. I could produce it. But even at that age, I was the kind of producer that if I'm not an expert at it, I'm putting in a phone call to somebody who can handle it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen you, you're like, I want to do this song, and I see you just listen to music and you just dissect the heck out of it, like the EQs, the tones, the reverbs, the types of drums, from just the aspect, to how long the reverb is on the drum, when it cuts off. Just the whole science of everything. I've seen you dissect songs and then go in there. I've actually seen you do this. Somebody played just a little bit and say, can you do something like that? You just say, play it for me a little bit. And they play it a little bit and then you turn it off. And I've seen you on the spot create, like, it's just like off a little snippet. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of the guys that was looking up to you as an artist and a producer.
All right.
Because one of my the first piece of gear that I got, I bought it because you had one. I bought my first professional production sequencer at the pawn shop.
Right.
And the only reason why I bought it is because you had one just like it, the ASR X.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, well, if he's got it, it must be good.
Right.
So I got it. But basically, so the first time you heard that, so now now her record is blown up. Now it's not just Madukwu, the dude that could play the instruments, the producer that lives around the corner or whatever it is. But now this dude is the multi-platinum recording producer, and you got a little change in your pocket.
Right.
So, like, what was that like? I mean, because coming up, where you're like, you don't have a whole lot of money, like me and my family, single mom, all these things. And then all of a sudden, not only do you have some money, you got the little accolades. Did I say it right? Accolades? Accolades. So explain that. Like, how did it change you? And did you start getting phone calls like, hey, how you been, man? Like, what was that like?
I love to tell you that I was very centered, but I have to remind myself that I was a younger man. I don't think I have a lot of ego problems, but I'm very clear about how God has blessed me musically. And back to the dissecting music, that's something that stands out beyond my playing. So when this stuff happened, it made my heart beat faster because it was a rush. I never did music for fame, never, and I don't today.
Yeah.
But it was pretty obvious. I was reading articles that weren't in English. I was reading articles from places like China. And I realized that I had a fan base of producers, noted producers and up-and-coming producers. So all kinds of opportunities happened. I found myself in Dallas in studio with people like Roger Troutman or Raven Simone. And I had to remind myself, hey, Madukwu, everybody doesn't get this opportunity. Yeah. So I put a lot of time into it. And after the success of Erykah Badu, I made sure that everybody had that caliber of production behind what they do. Because now, Madukwu, you got a name. You got to actually represent. So I wanted to be worthy of these accolades that people were giving to me. One time, there was a very helpful man. He was trying to be helpful. He said, finish your music, and I'm gonna blow you up. I can put it in the hands of DK. Yeah. I didn't even tell him that I was DK, so that was kind of funny to me. So that goes to show that I'd made a name for myself in music. I had played the church scenes, and I was just making my rounds, and I told only a few people no, but it was never based on their abilities. I like working with good people if possible. Yeah. People who add to or have good intentions.
So Erykah Badu, she blew up. You blew up, all you guys on that record. Rob Freed, Ty Macklin, I call him B Swift. Is it B Swift? Mm-hmm. B Swift.
Jawborn.
Jawborn, yeah. a whole lot of people, and then there's background singers like Ndombi. I think did Tish sing a little bit on the background? She was in the video.
And Gino Young sang
Gino
background
Young,
vocals on there
yeah.
too.
See, now we started naming. Now, if we leave anybody out,
Well, these things happen.
okay. So you went on to record a record that is a classic record, classic. And I believe your record is a classic record too. That's it's self-titled. Well, you went on to record and Born to Win,
Right.
which is classic too. So, but anyways, the Ndombi record, Little Lost Girl Blues, that was classic. Even Prince commented on it. A lot of people from around the world, they called her like the underground queen.
Right.
And you guys, that's how I met you. It was an open mic at Embassy Cafe at
Soul Embassy Cafe.
Soul Embassy Cafe off of Northwest Highway.
Yeah.
And I met you, and Ndombi was there, and then you guys, I don't even know, like I think that was the time you were working on a project.
Right.
But then that record came out, and talk about that project, because that's a classic project.
Right.
Cats are going to still be discovering that project and realize it's like mining for gold when you're trying to look for good music. That's going to be some gold that they come up with right there.
Yeah. So thanks for the compliment. I believe that it's funny you mentioned that record. That's a great picture of who I am. I knew that recording with Ndombi, she had a different vocal register. It was lower than like Erykah. Erykah's stuff, just imagine it was for a person with that frame. So I'm pretty detailed when it comes to matching, the style and the textures with the music. So when I worked on Ndombi's album, I knew that I could do two things. Connect Erykah's album with Ndombi as a background singer. And what did they have in common? I used the acoustic bass, the upright bass on them, because I believe that sound is both masculine and feminine. And they're cool ways to connect the music. Ndombi's record started off as a demo. I presented the songs to her one by one, and we had perfect music chemistry because she was a songwriter, and that's what she went to school for, was creative writing, and I believe African studies, something like that. But we were able to use all of that stuff when it came to that record. We didn't even know who we were going to pitch it to. I just knew that it needed to be authentic. One of the first songs we did on there was called Soul from the Abyss. It has this really really almost like an underwater type sound. It's sultry, but you can learn from it. She was in teaching mode, and I believe she's a good writer. Then we had songs like Sunshine that were written about her son.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite song on the record.
And on that first recording that we did, when we demoed it initially, at the end of the song, her son was sitting in the room knowing it was dedicated to him. So when she's holding the last note of the song at the end, you hear this in the background. And that's her son, our young son.
Oh, wow.
So he liked it. So everybody else got to like it after him.
I didn't know that. See? I didn't even know that. So, look, we could talk about all the people that you've worked with and all that, but what have you learned through this whole process with music and dealing with people and just living life and doing music?
I'd be glad to answer that. From my experiences, I learned that these stars are people. Their feelings can be hurt. They work sometimes without being rewarded with the accolades. Sometimes the money isn't right and they have to just show up and perform. And sometimes that gets old. So we're some sensitive people, a lot of us are. So we're in it really for the music. But the way the industry is going, a lot of people have a problem with feeling like they've been forgotten. So all of the artists that we grew up listening to, if you can imagine, will be forgotten. So this new generation beta, I believe, they're not going to know about some of these old records, or the process of making a record. Just imagine how sterile a record can be if you're sitting at your computer, your laptop, and you're making a record, as opposed to having a room with a candle and an open window, or some cars going down the street and you hear a couple of blows. You know what I'm saying? Creating will always be there. I just don't want people to dumb it down when there are more songs to be sung. There are all these events in the world. They're screaming for somebody to make a song about what's happening now. So just imagine, we grew up listening to songs, and you'd hear on the radio songs like "What's Going On," Marvin Gaye. You have to keep those kind of songs in the mix. One time I wrote about what I call the Michael Jackson factor. So regardless of how you feel about Michael Jackson, he gave you multiple things to think of on a record, outside of relationships, outside of politics. It's just like you have to use more than 2 or 3 emotions when you make a record. Show us all of you. Show us that you're vulnerable on this song, even if you're a pimp today. You hear what I'm saying? Tell the whole story. And if you have a story that needs to be told, let's say you're a gospel artist, you have to be honest with yourself about what you're going through. So it's fine to say, I'm going through it, and I'm weak today. I'll be strong tomorrow. That deserves a song. And if somebody wrongs you, you can go in there and you can write a song with violins if you want to. But if vengeance is on your mind that day, that song probably needs to be something loud. Or some rap or some rock to express how you actually feel. I don't think you do yourself a service when you pretend like it's all good. I believe that's unhealthy.
Yeah. So how do you feel the songwriters differ from today versus yesterdays or yesteryears or whatever?
First of all, props to all the songwriters. What happens is we live in a time where people are still creative, but they create because they know the formulas. You can have a producer that knows how a song can go. They can listen to a lot of Drake records and they can go there. They can go Kendrick Lamar and make that happen, you know. But it's really not really being true to yourself to stay in that mode. It's okay for a teaching tool. So I believe the old school producers used more creativity to make what they had because they had not as much to work with. We got drum machines, we got sequencers, we got AI to work with now, which means the record that would have taken me a week to do, you can do in minutes with the technology. And if you can do it in the minutes, how can you guarantee that it's your full expression or emotion if you make it too fast? You know, I'll give you an example. If you write a song and it's a sad song about a breakup, if you revisit the song You can wake up and say, I sound like I'm hurt, but I want people to know I was really hurt. So you add to the song.
Yeah.
But if you just go out the box and use the sounds that are available to you and do like so many records today, make sure that it's loud or all the focus is on the drums. They've replaced the word song with a beat. I can play a song with somebody that has only an orchestra playing, just strings, violins, and flutes. And somebody will always come up and say, who made that beat?
Yeah.
The song doesn't have a beat in it, you know. So it's a different language. It's a different time. I don't have anything against what the newer generation of producers is doing, but I do know that it adds to what you have when you have a live instruments. We got some great musicians in this world, and they're young and they're ready. Why not call them up and add them to your record, you know, to keep it alive and moving?
So would that be the one advice that you would ask? Like if you gave one advice to these producers coming up, what would you say? Add more live musicians?
Add more live musicians, or learn you a chord or two. It will absolutely add to what you have going. Just learn a little guitar, a little bit of keys, because I've seen how some people create their music. And I've heard music out there that they create that's actually me playing the instruments. So I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You use a sample. It's not a sample. It's Madukwu.
Yeah.
Whether it's the bass, the keys, or guitar. I don't have a problem with it. But
I've seen you make music, record, and make it sound like a sample.
Right.
Because that's what the song required, and you're able to do it.
Absolutely. So I don't know where that ear comes from outside of it being a God-given gift. But yes, I can take a sample of just about any song. And if you can imagine, a sample is looping and the song needs a bridge. I can use the same instruments from the sample, EQ'd the same way, mixed the same way to form the bridge to make the song have more color. I understand that today's records are shorter than the ones that we made. So things like bridges have to be shortened. And I'm still making the adjustment to 6-bar verses and 12-bar verses because that's foreign to me. But I appreciate all of it because I know the objective is to get the song in and out because of people's attention span.
So, switching up subjects just a tad bit.
Mm-hmm.
You have a daughter, Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me how that experience shaped your music.
All right.
In your life.
I talked to her this morning. She's it's an amazing addition to my life. She's an adult. The little girls have a way of softening your heart. I grew up in various neighborhoods in Dallas, Texas, and I always knew how to get home. When my daughter was born, it made me want to do something. I would have put in some hours that day if I could have. I remember it being a natural high of sorts when she was born. I had never seen or felt that kind of beauty and responsibility. So the work that I did before, I was already doing everything. Well, when she was born, it made me want to do more and be more. So I wanted to be consistent with all the people I work with so I could get more work because I had somebody to feed.
And in the last 3 years or so, 4 years, you've had a granddaughter.
Yes. Yes, I am a grandfather. She calls me Baba. I spoke to her today as well. She sang to me.
Tell me her name again.
Her name is Irie.
Irie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so how was it? How was that experience being a grandfather
I'd be glad to share it. My daughter's gonna kill me for this. She called me from Baton Rouge, where she lives, and told me that she had a headache that wouldn't go away. This is at the beginning of like the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I was a little worried, prayed with her, and it was a concern of hers. She doesn't like to take pain relievers or anything like that. So she finally went to the doctor, which she doesn't like to do. And that's when she learned that it wasn't a headache at all. And she had taken one Aleve. That's when they told her she was pregnant. And it wasn't a regular headache. So that's how I learned that my granddaughter was on the way. And those feelings came back all over again. The little girl, and she came out with similar mannerisms and just a joy to talk to and hold and all that good stuff. She's 3 now.
So, like all the things that you've done and you continue to do, what kind of impact do you want to make on the world? And what kind of impact do you want to make on the world?
I want people to take it easy on themselves. So many people measure themselves by their accomplishments, and I think that's not the best way to go. I've heard musicians from my own city say, I'm bound and determined to get a Grammy or to get this or to get that. All I could think about is the dozens who won't get that opportunity for whatever reason. I admire the people who do music and can hold a family together. There are other important things in this world. I know people who are talented who table their craft because they prioritize their partner or a family. And that's admirable to me.
Yeah.
So they can admire me for music, and I can admire them for running that house the right way.
Yeah.
I love music, but I don't worship the stuff. I don't worship gospel music.
Yeah.
I worship the creator of both gospel and secular music. Those are genres to me. If people could hear the music that was written to the ancient songs, they might be surprised at how similar they were to the secular songs of the day. What is your intent when you make a record? Is it to heal or is it to kill? It's as simple as that. Most of the music that is promoted, a lot of the music that is promoted is not healthy today. So you kind of have to find the stuff that makes you feel good about yourself and not try to live through other artists, because once again, they have become a product and they may not even be singing the words of their heart. They might be singing songs that were written by a team of people who think otherwise or believe otherwise. So I would say enjoy being a gifted person and don't measure what you do against anybody who's out there. I've also heard artists say they don't want to drop because a certain artist is dropping that same day. So they'll table what they have to do. Even record companies and all of these experts online that tell you to drop a single at a time. Let's do some simple math here. You drop one song at a time and you have 2,000 songs. We will never get to know who you are if you drop one song at a time. I know there are business reasons for doing so, and if you're in this for it to be a lucrative thing, God bless you. But if you got music and you can heal somebody like me, I need you to put that record out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, couple things. First of all, you do all genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
You've recorded all genres of music. You have records and jazz records, reggae records, country records, rap records, R&B records, gospel records, blues records,
classical records,
just all kinds of records, and scoring films,
commercials, TV shows, everything.
harmonicas,
Yep.
tamarines, upright basses,
Right.
steel guitars. I mean, like, you just you don't. There's no limits when it comes to creating music, and what I've been around you for quite a while now, and you keep stretching yourself. And the crazy thing about it is, and one thing, but Bernard Wright said, he's like, man, because I was there when he said it. He was like, man, Madukwu, the thing about you is like, and you give, I can't remember quite exactly, but it was something like, man, like when you do a record like it's so good. It's like the dang dude who did that record is doing this one too. It's just like, that's just your skill level on another level. Your skill is on another level, and your ears and how you hear it is like, I know a lot of people who get close, but you've probably the one that I've seen get the closest. And
So these are languages to me. When a person has a style and I can emulate it, it only means that I've served as a student.
Yeah.
So if you hear a song that I do that feels like Stevie Wonder, it's because none of us can hold him. And I wanted to know what makes me feel good about the music.
Yeah.
I have access to the same equipment and access to the same guide. So nothing is out of my reach. So I don't run from songs where somebody would say, you can't play that, that's Coltrane. I was like, I can do it. It's just where you want to apply yourself. You have people in this industry who can play every note that you want to hear. You don't know if it's a gift or that they practiced all night and all day. You have people who have a lot of music out there. Some of the musicians that we named earlier, they spent all of their time making music. Me, on the other hand, sometimes I like to go through a drive-through or a park, get the little balance going. I could make more music. I can make even more music, but life has too many beautiful things in it to be cooped up and making records all day. As much as I love music, I don't love it more than people.
Yeah. Wow. So, Grammy. You got that call to go to the Grammys because you were nominated for the Grammy. You already had the multi-platinum records, and you got the plaques on the wall and all of the everything that comes with that. And now you get this call to come in, and you've been nominated for this Grammy. What were you thinking?
It was a dream come true, and quite honestly, it kind of came out of the blue. I got a phone call. Erykah was supposed to be writing a song for Magic Johnson film, Brown Sugar, with Taye Diggs and Sanaa Lathan, Queen Latifah. And Erykah referenced a song that I had written about 11 years before, 12 years before. And she said, could she use it for the film? I said, sure. And a couple of cool things happened with that. Some of the people who I always wanted to collaborate with, both James Poyser and Raphael Sadiq, they were able to touch the record that I'm a writer of. So between that and the addition of Common being on the same song, Love of My Life, an ode to hip hop. It was just a really, really big deal and experience to get that phone call. The initial phone call was the Recording Academy asking how to pronounce my name. This happened a couple of times, and that made me feel some kind of way. I was like, wait a minute, it's going down.
Yeah.
So that year it was in Madison Square Garden in New York. And rather than fly up there, I said, I'd take it all in. I'm about to win this. And the competition appeared to be steep. So watch this. The contenders were India Ari, Floetry, and Music Soul Child. Are you kidding me? I'm going to get to see them. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm going to get to see them. All right? They call my name, and Erykah is snowed in Dallas. So I go up there and I do an actual speech at the Grammys. And yes, I was nervous. I was very nervous. And for the next 3 nights, I got very little sleep because that was one of my dreams, but it really did come about 10 years before I expected it. It just did.
10 years before you expected it?
Absolutely.
And out of all the music that you've done, like, what does it feel like getting a Grammy for that one?
Well,
did you have any feelings?
I did have feelings about it. One part of me said, wait till they hear what else I do.
Gotcha.
That was there.
Yeah.
But then when I saw the company that I was in and the legs that were on that project, so just imagine, this song is blowing up. I look on Billboard and I see it surpass Missy Elliott's Work It. I said, this is a hit record. And then I'm looking in the magazine and Billboard. I'm like, this is a big deal. And I took it all in and I tried to make sure that everything was on that level, hoping to work with the other collaborators on there. It didn't happen, but I don't know why it didn't happen, but I don't have a problem with working on my own. I'm a pretty self-contained producer, and I'm open to working with others, and I'll just leave it there.
Okay, so you got the Grammy.
Mm-hmm.
When you started out making music and recording music, did you ever like say to yourself, "I'm gonna win the Grammy. I'm gonna go get a Grammy. I'm gonna sell millions of records"? Or was it a like a bucket list kind of thing, or things you wanted to achieve in life, or did it just happen? You're like,
actually, my peers saw it first.
yeah,
I was just being myself. And I have a couple of friends who told me in junior high and high school, they knew it was going to have something to do with music. They said, don't forget me when you get your Grammy. Or a friend of mine said, she said, I already have my dress picked out when you get your Grammy. And so those are the first references. And then I can remember a certain breakup when I was a younger man. I remember when we broke up, I told her, that's okay, one day I'm going to get a Grammy. Fast forward to the night of the Grammys.
yeah.
She actually saw me get the Grammy and remembered that conversation. She was washing dishes and she heard my name. And just speaking things into existence is some real things.
Well, let's speak some stuff right now. What else? Come on.
Yeah.
Let's speak some stuff right now.
Mm-hmm. No, let's speak some stuff.
Let's speak some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. So, like, oh, man. Music, like, okay, one of the things that I find humorous and you get everybody to sing. You get like
Right.
he did a whole
He's
like
exposing
songs with and you figure out when you're working with an artist, even if they're not the best vocalists, you find the instruments that they can hold them up in a certain way where they can do what they do, and you help them. You kind of help them with their style by creating a sound around them.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like I was talking to somebody else, and I heard this before. They said Miles Davis, he didn't really so much change the sound or the way that he played the instrument. He just changed his band around him, and it changed the way that you heard his music.
Right.
Now, for these purists and jazz musicians that think I don't know what I'm talking about, you're right. This is just what I heard. but that kind of it to me you are the music that changes around that particular artist that helps them skyrocket.
I learned very early on that it was about the artist. If it sounds like you're auditioning when you're making a record, you may have missed it. True artists already come with a certain charisma or swag. It's our job to color that. I'll have an artist in there, a national artist recording, and they'll tell me about the notes that they can't hit, and I'll reference a previous album where they did just that. Okay,
Yeah.
So you got to research who the artist is. I have artists who you have to be careful how you put music and present it to them. So if you have a woman who is let's say a petite woman, there's a petite sound for her that you can do to highlight what she brings. If a person's voice is high, there's a certain texture that goes behind it. I'd be more inclined to pull up an acoustic guitar or something light that actually works with it. You listen to Tupac, the drums are going to be in your face, and the bass. They're all talking. They have the same conversation going. Yeah. So I just observed all those masters who were able to do that. Quincy Jones, rest in peace. Rod Temperton, Curtis Mayfield, whoever it was, I noticed that they consciously changed the texture for this artist and this song, because that's always what's more important, more important than who produced it. You don't know what the producer added to it. You don't know if it was a hi-hat. You don't know if it was a vocal. You don't know if it was take that bridge out.
Yeah.
It's their standard. So I respect all the producers because ultimately you get a good product. Unfortunately, the people who play well, those purists of which you spoke, they don't understand that it's whatever it takes to get that record done. I don't need you to get a music degree to produce a record for me.
Right.
I need the record to sound good.
Yeah. And it may just need a kick drum.
It might.
And like just a one-note bass.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Mr. Super Producer, can you get your son who's 20 to come in here and put some big drums on this track?
Yeah.
You got to be open-minded to enhancing it and meeting radio halfway. And it's just a lonely road for a person who has all ego. You find yourself with cameras on you and somebody asking you to perform.
There was a. It's funny because when you make music for just music's sake, it's just what it is. You make music just as an artist, it's just like putting out a canvas or whatever and painting on the canvas because you want to paint it. But when you make music for business, then that's exactly what you're doing. You're making something to sell. It's just like nobody wants raspberry, strawberry with cheese and pickled flavor chips.
Right.
Because that's not a good product.
Unless you're 5.
Right. So music is the same way. And I was talking to name drop will.i.am at his studio in Glendale, California, and he told me, and it was the first time it made sense to me. He said, he says, like he was talking about me. He says, you make music. And he says, I just made music. You know, that's what he said. He's like, I used to make music. And then there was a time, because their career, he had to make a decision. Okay, I'm either going to continue to do music, or I'm going to have to find something. I'm going to have to go stand in line or in the unemployment line somewhere, because, you know, I'm going to have to do something. And he said that's when he learned that he has to make music to make business. And he was in the music business industry. So either he had to learn or he had to get away. And the thing is that a lot of people don't understand that the music business is different than just creating music. And I just think that sometimes it takes a while to understand that. And they're bittersweet, because both of them are asking you to bend.
Right.
And sometimes for business, you know, it causes, for me, and I believe that, like, sometimes it you sacrifice some of the integrity of the music. And for some art styles or music styles, you can't do that. So, you know, like by saying, okay, you're staying true to it or whatever it is, that's when you cross that line of whether I'm going to, they use the word sell out, or whether I'm going to stay pure. And will.i.am, again, somebody came up to him and said, man, you sold out. And his approach was, or his response was, you damn right. I sold out of this store, this store, this store, this show, this so, because he understood what he was doing and why he was doing it at the time. And there's nothing wrong with doing music for business, not just money, but understanding that you're going to make music regardless. But then at the same time, this is will.i.am driving from his studio back to Long Beach when I was living in Long Beach. He played all kinds of genres on this in his car. That stuff that you will never hear on the radio.
Right.
And that's because you still have to serve that side of you. So, what do you think about any of that?
There are formulas. As I've gotten older, I've done what so many producers my age will do. We'll try to be historians of sorts. So, you know, I have records that feel like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, DeBarge, whatever it is.
Michael Jackson.
Prince. all those cats.
Janet Jackson? No, I'm messing with you.
oh, no. I got music for it.
Yeah.
It just really does depend. It just really does depend.
Who do you want to work with?
Believe it or not, the young jazz musicians and vocalists.
Esperanza
Spalding, yeah.
And what's the new girl that got the new artist? I think it was last year.
Samara.
Man, she's cold.
That's probably.
Oh my goodness.
That's probably at the top. So
I heard her voice. Well, I saw her.
Then you heard the voice.
Then I heard the voice. It's like, hold on, where's that voice come? That's where the voice is. It's like, wow, she's an amazing. I just love the tone of her voice. It's like an instrument within itself. I don't know. So
she's a favorite.
Oh yeah, man, I love her.
She's a favorite. The mainstream artists, I really do think they have it covered. I'll give you an example. Whoever it is making these Chris Brown songs, see, there's magic associated with a pop song. What's going to fly? What's going to work? A no-brainer, so to speak. They have it over there. I have other artists that I like, but they have that covered. I think that I want to work with artists who we've already seen. I don't want ageism to be something that locks people out who still have something to offer.
Yeah.
So I believe it doesn't work typically when you have an artist who's been around for 20 or 30 years. And if you put them with a producer who's 18 years old, they might not be able to handle it. Grown people like chords. Grown people like...
No, they did some wonders with Charlie Wilson, though.
They weren't so young.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, he can do anything because
it's Charlie Wilson.
Because he's Charlie Wilson. That's the only thing. Charlie Wilson, he may sound better than when he was young.
Oh, man, his tone is so, it's like Joe.
Yes. So those people. Joe, I see as, believe it or not, I see him as a producer. Obviously, he can sing better than all of us, but the producer in him, you listen to records that he's put together, I really appreciate.
He's a dope
his
guitar
art.
player too.
Yes, he is.
He's a classically trained, he plays all kinds of stuff on the guitar.
Yep. So as far as working with people, John Mayer,
John Legend.
And here it comes, one of the greatest vocalists and versatile vocalists of our time.
Stevie Wonder.
Kelly Clarkson can do everything with her voice. If you start up some gospel in here, she's gonna hit it. And if you do some rock, she can project over it. She can do that. People like that can actually paint the picture for the music that's in front of them. Yeah, Kelly Clarkson is on my list of people who I would love to work with. I wrote a song thinking that I was going to work with her called Starting Over. And I didn't get that opportunity to present it to her, but it's waiting for her. Big record.
So how many records have you recorded over the last, let's say, 5 years?
A bunch of them.
List them. You do all genres. Mm-hmm. So list them and state like the genre.
I will. In recent years, probably starting at the beginning. Well, actually, 2016. Let's go there. 2016, I did a long-awaited project called Born to Win. It has Stevie Wonder feel, and it probably feels like songs in the key of life. And I know that's a big deal, but those textures are there. You're talking about a Stevie Wonder student. I wanted people to feel those kind of records again. And this project was birthed because I had a meeting with EMI. And EMI asked me who was that singing when I played the records. I was trying to submit that record to Stevie Wonder. They said, you do well to do this stuff yourself. You have an amazing voice, okay? And that's what I built Born to Win around. So you hear acoustic guitars and harps and Rhodes and live drums, live horns, all kinds of things going on there. At the beginning of the pandemic, I went on this thing where I wanted people to remember what live music sounded like. So I recorded an album called Celebrate. And Celebrate had a Marvin Gaye kind of thing on it, live instruments, all kinds of things going on. I also recorded a record that was like the Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones collaboration. That album is called Stereophonic. That one felt good. Then I wanted people to hear my guitar work, as I like to consider myself a Hendrix kind of student. So I did a record called Passing Through. And I also did a record called More Than Friends, which was like the Switch or DeBarge kind of album. And I did another album called, that was MC and the Vinyl Lionels, where I did like a Sam Cooke thing with it. And I recently did a Christmas album called A Classic Christmas, where I did Frank Sinatra things and big band and storytelling, all kinds of things going on with that. I also recorded an album called Royal. Royal is like a revisiting that Stevie Wonder sound from Born to Win. And Royal is it's a nice trip down soul. And if you like analog synthesizers and the old stuff, I used a lot of those techniques. You can also hear on that record that I probably became a better vocalist on that record. You can probably hear the growth. Like so many people during the pandemic, I lost my high register of my vocals, and it took a couple of years to come back. But when it came back, it was nice. So I healed totally from that. I continue to work on projects for other people, but that was a list of the solo efforts that I've done. One of my collaborators is Kay Yvette. Kay Yvette has a new song called It's the Piece for Me. It's fire. She's a great singer. She's featured on that Born to Win album on a song called Two Hearts.
Love that song.
It was a joy working with her in the studio.
I love that song.
Then the artist Dion Q, she recorded 2 songs with me, one being Spring, that has like the Vanessa Williams, Barbara Streisand kind of thing.
That's dope too. I forgot about that song.
Yeah, so she knows what she's doing over there too. And then she has another song, Dion Q has a song called It's a Good Day. And I wanted to make sure that the song that she had written had a nice bounce to it, as she has like a colorful kind of personality. I wanted to match it, and I consider that a classic, and eventually everybody will get around to that. I really, really like how she matches the song. She performed it well. She's clearly accustomed to the studio and working in the studio. Hopefully we'll do some more stuff soon. And of course I did collaborations with one of my piano instructors, Yulia, and we have a song that's making its way around the globe. It's won multiple awards. I produced it, and I'm playing on it and produced it. It's very nice. I look forward to doing some more work with her. She helped my dexterity in recent years as a piano instructor. I wanted my hands to be stronger, and she was able to help with that, with exercises.
Right on. So, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to elaborate on, or just kind of leave people with, like where you just take the mic and just free flow? This is your...
I will. We know we live in kind of unpredictable times. If you're an artist and if you've tabled your art, I have 2 things to say. This is not me wanting to give you any pressure, but if you got something good, we'd love to hear it. But I would add to that is, if you don't feel like doing music in this season, don't do music. I'm cool with both of it. I'm all about everybody being healthy, doing what they're doing. There's plenty of music out there, and there's a lot of people trying to get their music heard. I would say don't count the amount of people that hear your music, but just hold it close to your heart, the people who regard it highly. If you have a fan, that should be good enough. If you have 1 million fans, that's great too. But don't discount the props that come from these homies and these family members, because a lot of times they want the best for you. Don't put the pressure behind you to put out music that you're not ready to put out. I'm just anxious to hear what you got to say. So that's me being selfish. I want to hear your record.
So, man, thank you for coming and being on the Southside 457 podcast. I don't know, man. I've known you for so long. There's so many questions to ask. And I know once you get up and get out of here, I'm like, man, I should ask you this. And, man, we should have talked about that. But the good thing about the Southside 457 and you is as long as I'm around and we're around, you come back.
Right. I'll do just that.
Yeah, so, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being vulnerable. And until next time, peace.
Southside 457.